Throughout history, people have communicated through newspapers, televisions, and the internet. But our most complex piece of communication is the art form. From music to canvas to stage, humans have gone beyond communicating simple information by tapping into our emotions. In every culture, there is a form of theater to educate and communicate important ideals. In 1924, a tradition began to teach in Omaha that still thrives to this day. This was the largest and one of the most recognized community theaters in the nation, the Omaha Playhouse.
Henry Fonda and I urge each and every one of you to give generously to the Community Playhouse Building Drive.
I know you will, because whatever Omaha wants, Omaha gets and supports.
Presented live from the new Omaha Playhouse, and brought to you as a public service by the Omaha National Bank, the bank that has been helping Omaha grow since 1866.
In the mid-1920s, hundreds of live theaters were shuttered due to the increase of movie theaters, which were cheaper to run because no actors had to be accommodated. So a group of passionate people from Omaha met up in 1924 to get involved in a new theater movement to create the Omaha Playhouse. Omaha architect Allen McDonald served as the president for the theater while designing the Joslin Museum in downtown Omaha. Allen stated, "To raise the drama from a purely amusement enterprise into an educational, cultural force." The first production, The Enchanted Cottage, was performed at a non-sloped floor dance studio near downtown Omaha. This production introduced Jane Fonda, sister of Henry Fonda. Henry Fonda was later introduced in the first official season, 1925 to 1926, who was previously studying journalism in Minneapolis. The area that was used for this theater was later transformed into a restaurant, making the Playhouse start a new location in the Benson High School. Then days later, a temporary building was built for the theater. In a breaking 28 days, the temporary theater became the new theater. When the new theater opened, the floors were still being swept and chairs were being bolted in while people waited in the lobby. A beloved artist from Iowa, Grant Wood, was a scenic designer in a production that brought Henry Fonda as co-star for A Kiss for Cinderella. Bernie Scholes directed the opening and left in 1935 while being recognized nationally for cultural coming of age that the Playhouse produced to the community. In the late 30s, Henry took the role of his father as house manager, while Gordon Griffin brought musicals for the community. Later, World War II brought a darkness to the Playhouse, with a new director being departed for war. This is when prominent male productions were changed to women's dramas like The Woman. The war kept the Playhouse in its darker stages until a light appeared in the late 50s. 1959 brought Fonda for fundraising a new building and location, for the old location was meant to be temporary. Elaine Jabis hosted a live television event for this opening with all the first-nighters. When the Playhouses started, they performed avant-garde and controversial productions, but the 1960s brought a new life to them. A new black box style theater was built on the main stage. Hawks offered classics and musicals, while the black box, Howard Drew, brought more risky performances. The mid-70s brought a new director, Charles Jones, and a scenic designer, Jim Althus. At this time, A Music Man was performed, which caused a higher standards and more elegant productions. In 1976, an Omaha tradition began. This was A Christmas Carol, which served great importance after a large tornado and blizzard hit the Playhouse that year when the Playhouse was in a slump. Charles brought the idea of a holiday production, and he thought Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol was perfect. He created his own adaptation. The magic was brought from his imagination because most of the scenes were not even written down. And this possibility for imagination created the new holiday tradition. In 1976, Omaha decided that his adaptation of A Christmas Carol needed to be shared with the nation. This began the Nebraska Theater Caravan, which was the first professional touring wing of the Playhouse. His production, A Christmas Carol, included many extravagant costumes, special effects, and couldn't be lost when they brought it to the road. The The Playhouse was already well known beyond its borders in Nebraska, so it was not hard to get audiences in the theaters they traveled to across the country. The production is still performed to this day as an annual national tour and main stage production. This is not just a show for the viewers, it is a tradition that generations and generations enjoy year after year.
It's an important part of the tradition here because, one is the holidays. A lot of people, a lot of families want to get together on the holidays and they have their own traditions, whether it be, we play this game every year, we eat this meal every year. For some people, it's we go to the Playhouse every year and we watch a Christmas Carol. People also love to come see something that they can be comforted by. And I think Christmas Carol really does that. I know it sounds cheesy, but I describe it as a hug to the Omaha community.
2020 brought new life to the production as the world went through a pandemic. But the Playhouse decided there still needs to be a way to have a Christmas Carol. The production was filmed once with less sets and actors and scenes for the safety of everyone in the production. The recording was released for a limited time during the holiday season for people all across the country.
It's about how far we can come to overcome things that might be standing in the way of us loving one another as we should. And it's a really satisfying story.
A tornado hit Omaha in the 80s, leading Margie Durham to a $6 million expansion. This brought 3 Christmas Carol tours across the Midwest, East Coast, and West Coast. This also brought more space to the theater itself and doubled the amount of attendees to the Playhouse. Before the beloved director Charles Jones left the Playhouse, it was ranked number 1 with its extravagant sets, budget, size, and staff. Charles brought a medium-class theater to number 1 in the nation in just a matter of decades.
It is the largest community theater in the United States, which is a really cool thing that we get to know that we have.
With huge attendance, the community learned more and more about different cultures, creeds, and minorities. The Playhouse was ahead of its time, welcoming anyone through its doors. The new millennium brought the community together more and more. It brought so much more to the community.
We have a lot of really great teaching artists that get out into the community and teach students, kids and adults, about theater, about the arts, and also about the Playhouse, so that they know this is a place where they can come.
The Charles Jones era brought a large growth to the Playhouse for it to set sail on bringing the community into it. More shows were added to the seasons and internships for actors, writers, and scenic designers for more inclusion of the community and beyond. The new millennium also brought a new face to A Christmas Carol too. Before Jerry Lounge, the current actor of Scrooge, Dick Boyd, was the owner of the role. After Dick's retirement of 30 years in the role, everyone was concerned for the legacy of the show. Jerry brought a new life and comedy to the role, with everyone hesitant when walking in to everybody with standing ovations at the curtain call. It was clear the new casting was a success. Dick Boyd recently passed last summer, bringing the community together with Dick Boyd's final season celebration. A recording of one of his last performances was released virtually to celebrate and remember his life. The new millennium also brought many more awards and opportunities for the Playhouse to get involved in. The Playhouse also used to lack in family shows, but in recent years brought new productions for families like Annie and Shrek the Musical. The Playhouse will continue to teach and grow to the Omaha community for years to come.
That when you call yourself a community playhouse, you need to be able to be communicating with the entire community. And I think technology today has really allowed that to happen much more successfully. So we're seeing a lot of new audiences over the years.
Whenever going anywhere from state to state, country to country, there's always a way of communication everyone understands, and this is the arts. When traveling to Omaha, you realize that it is not lacking in this. No matter how hard times get, theater finds its way to people. Art is a way of communication that will always persist in history and will teach people for years to come.